Hello and welcome to the 11th episode of Shapeology, first episode in English. Shapeology is an amateur podcast dedicated to surfboards and surfboard makers. Quick note for the French listeners, si vous n'êtes pas à l'aise en anglais, vous pouvez retrouver cet épisode sur YouTube, ce qui vous permettra d'activer les sous-titres automatiques en français. For this episode, Renaud Cardinal invited me to the Shapers Club at UWL Factory to talk with Malcolm Campbell, a Californian shaper famous for the invention of the Bonzer in 1970. He still shapes and refines these boards today. I chose to focus on the Bonzer and Malcolm's shaping career, but I strongly suggest that you listen to his great interviews by Surf Splendor and by the Temple of Surf podcast. We first talk about the Bonzer, its definition, its beginnings, its evolution through the years, and then talked about Malcolm's career as a shaper. As I said, we met at the Shapers Club near La Rochelle in the southwest of France, where Malcolm has come every year or so for more than 15 years. He was actually in Europe to prepare a documentary about the Bonzer. We talk about these two topics in the end of the episode. You can check our Instagram shape.ology and our website shapeology.fr to see all the pictures and videos of Malcolm shaping at the Shapers Club. I apologize for my bad English and accent and hope that you will still enjoy the interview. And now, let's listen to Malcolm Campbell. Talk a little bit about the Bonzer, because it's your main project, if I may say. First of all, how do you define a Bonzer?
How do we define the Bonzer? Well, the surfboard itself, the name in itself is Australian, comes from Australia, it's Australian slang. And it means extraordinary or unique. It's an adjective. And as far as the surfboard, so we started out with the 3-fin setup. First with just flat, slight V bottom by the fins. And then within the first year, we went and put the double concaves with the 3 fins. So that's the original sort of archetypal Bonzer, setup. And it was unique and different. And my father stumbled onto the word Bonzer in the Oxford English Dictionary, and he goes, "What do you think?" And it fit perfect because we were very much influenced by the Australian shortboard revolution that was going on. So to have an Australian slang word to name our surfboard, it was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a concept that you applied to any kind of surfboard?
Yes. The Bonzer design, the setup, the fins, the concaves, whether it's a 3 or a 5-fin setup, can work on any shape surfboard. We've done sailboards in the past, kiteboards. It works really on any type of board that's in the water, really. But because we've been doing it so long, it's become kind of a generic term. So other people make things that are similar. They might not be exactly the way that we do it, and they may say it's a Bonzer or influenced by the Bonzer, but basically, double concave through the fin area with the 3 or 5-fin setup that's a Bonzer.
Yeah, and you still make it today in this spirit. Can you tell us about the beginnings? You worked with your brother?
Yes, we were young and we were still living at home with our father, and he was into boat design and things as well, and we were just very influenced by the Australian shortboards, and the board sizes had gotten down to very small, down to 6 foot, maybe even under 6 foot. But most of the boards were single fins or maybe some early twin fins, and so we were not having good. We were just not having good results with the really short, wide boards being very versatile. So we were thinking about ways to make a really short board have a lot of control and drive, and still have stability and still have maneuverability. And so actually it was my dad, my father, he said, have you thought about doing 3 fins? And so Duncan, myself, and my dad, my father, we just talked around with a bunch of different ideas, and there was, we were influenced by this, there was actually a sailboat, drawing of a sailboat from, I think it was really the late 1800s, early, maybe 1896, I think it was, and it had a twin keel, center keel, but it had 2, and those keels were single foil even, and they were canted out. They weren't straight down, they were canted out. And so we looked at that and we thought, so when the boat was heeling over, each of those, like if it was heeling over on one side, that keel would be more vertical in the water, and the same if you were tacking back the other way. So we looked at that, and then that's how we sort of came up with, because we went from a single fin and then we put the 2 Bonzer fins forward of the center fin, like a twin, like twin keels. And the first Bonzer fins were actually shaped like a keel fin. They were about 11 inches long and maybe 2.5, 2 3/4 inches deep. And then we canted them out, angled them out. So that was really the very beginnings of it. And the board had a very wide tail, like some of the early shortboards, Australian shortboards. So the first time we rode that board, we couldn't believe it, how well it worked, because we had a short board that had a lot of control and drive in your turns. It went really fast and was still very maneuverable. And so really it was the first wave we noticed such a huge difference. And then we thought, okay, now what? What are we going to do? We've got a good idea. And so then we just began to really think about it more and try to refine it and refine our shapes, because it was different. We were learning to surf and shape at the same time. In 1970, I was 18 years old and Duncan was 15 years old. So we were really young and we didn't know anything really about making surfboards. We were just, looking at things, and we didn't know how to glass. We didn't have any power tools to shape, and so we were shaping our boards all with hand tools, and so it was very rudimentary, very primitive at the beginning.
Yeah. And you said the Bonzer fins at first were bigger than what you made afterwards?
No, they were longer. The base was longer. It was approximately maybe 10 3/4 length on the base. The depth was similar to now. Actually, now the base is a little bit shorter and the depth is a little bit deeper.
Oh. And it was already a triangular shape?
Yes, that keel, the triangular keel shape is what we started with, and we still today we're using that.
Yeah, you were pretty close from the beginning to...
Yes, it was an unusual situation because it was one of those, I don't know, it's kind of a cliche phrase, but eureka moment. I mean, we brainstormed it, we built it, and the first one worked really well. So then it was, as I mentioned a minute ago, it was more about learning about why it worked, because okay, it works. Now we were trying to really look into the specifics of why it was working so that we could refine it. And then also, like I said, we had only been shaping for, I think I shaped my first board in 1968. We did the Bonzer in 1970. So, we were just at the very beginning of everything. But we had this design that looked to be very functional.
And how did it work when you went to Bing surfboards? It must have been challenging for you.
Right. So for a couple of years, we were refining the Bonzer and learning to shape a little bit better and learning how to glass. And we were building all the boards in my mom and dad, my parents' garage. And so we sent a little article to Surfer magazine about our boards, but they sent the article back. They said thank you, but we didn't have any really nice photos or anything. But so we got to the point where we thought we were making some boards for our friends, but we thought if we want to share this design and get it out to the world, we need somebody with credibility, a bigger name company to endorse the board, and because Oxnard at that time was sort of out of the way. It wasn't like Southern California, like from Malibu south to San Diego was the center really of surfing, surfboard, production. And so all the experienced people, everybody was, more in Southern California. We were just a couple of kids from Oxnard, and we figured no one's going to believe us. So we needed a bigger name to say, yeah, this thing works. So we sent letters out to quite a few surf companies, of the bigger companies of that time. But Bing was the only company that, returned our... they got back to us, and they invited us to come down and show them the design.
And the design you took to Bing, it was this whitetail shortboard, or it was already refined and different models?
Yeah, by the time that we went to Bing, we had refined the boards a little bit. The tail, we were still making some of the wide tail ones, but we were also making some boards with narrower tails that were, a little bit more, a little bit more contemporary in the sense of not quite so short. I think our boards were, 5'8", 5'8" to 6'4" is what we were riding. A little bit narrower tails, but with they were our 3-fin, double concave, and our glass jobs were not very good. And when Bing invited us to come down, we were pretty nervous because they were one of the top manufacturers in the world, quality and shapes, and so it was kind of nervous. And but really, what really helps, our boards, were fairly crude in terms of their, construction and quality of glassing, and shaping was pretty basic. But we had some we started taking Super 8 films pretty early, so that we could see how the boards were working, and we could watch and we could analyze what was happening. So we had a decent bit of film footage to take down there to show them our boards and that was the thing that really kind of tipped the scales. You know, it really made it possible for them, because if you're just looking at the boards, you kind of go, I don't know. But when they could see how they were working in the water, you know, that showed them that there was possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they adopted your designs, or did you have to make some changes for the, you know, with Bing? How did it really? How did it work? Did you work together with Bing, with people over there? Or?
Well, yeah. The first couple of boards, I shaped the concaves, and Mike Eaton, who was Bing's #1 shaper, and Bing, they shaped the boards, but I put the concaves in just to do it for the first couple and show the, you know, and just show them. And so yeah, it was pretty much you know, right to our specs, you know, our specifications. Because they had said, look, we'll make some for our team riders. If they like them, you know, we'll see what they think, and then if they like it, maybe we'll move ahead with it. And so yeah, it was pretty accurate to what we brought them, the first boards.
Okay, and then how did it evolve? You kept working there with Bing for years? Or?
No, we didn't work with them on a day-to-day basis. They were down in Hermosa Beach. We were up in Oxnard, so it's about 100 kilometers, you know, away. And so after they got feedback from their team riders, they decided, okay, we're gonna go ahead with the project. And then they pretty much did all the shaping. Okay. And you know, we consulted a little bit. The boards changed a little, but not too much. But actually the shapes were really nice, because those guys have been shaping for years, and we had just gotten started. So they had really nice templates and really good shapes. And so yeah, and Bing, they really advertised a lot, and really promoted it, and we were just kind of pretty much blown away that they really jumped in and did it.
And you kept making your own at your place?
Yeah, we kept shaping our own boards, but we were getting a few Bings and riding the Bings you know, to promote the whole project. So we were riding Bings, and Duncan and I got a couple, you know, two boards right away, shorter boards, and Duncan got actually like a 7.4 kind of a gun that Mike Eaton had shaped. And so yeah, we were riding Bings for the first, you know, couple well, really for the first year for sure. Okay. And yeah.
And it lasted for how long, this partnership?
Well, actually what happened was, after 1 year, approximately 1 year, Bing had decided that he was going to kind of get out of the surfboard, you know, business. So he licensed the Bing name to Gordon and Smith. And so Gordon and Smith started, well, with Mike Eaton. So the Bonzer and all the Bing shapes and Mike Eaton all went to Gordon and Smith, which was further away, all the way down to San Diego. And so we stayed with that for about 6 more months after Bing had left, and then things really didn't work out that wouldn't work out that well. It was really a long distance for us to be traveling and checking on the boards, and the relationship was different. Bing was just such an incredibly, just wonderful, nice, he was just really nice. And so it was, it was business, but also he was very, well, I guess the simplest way to put it, he was very nice to us. Yeah. So once it changed to Gordon Smith, it was a little bit different. It was more kind of just cut and dry, and Duncan and I, we just said, after 6 months with the G&S, we just said, we were done. But we didn't take the name away or anything, because Mike Eaton was still really liking to shape the boards, and so we just let them proceed with what they were doing, and then we really started working on our own boards more.
Okay, so that's when you started your brand, kind of? Or?
Yeah, when it actually, yes, that's probably is when you would say it was actually
but it was more a local
brand. Yes, it was very local.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly just our friends, but that was we left Gordon and Smith in 1974, and then by 1975 we were working with Bill Hubina, his nickname is Blinky, with Ventura Surf Shop, and he kind of took us in, and we started making boards at their factory.
Okay. And you were the ones who glassed it and sent it and everything?
We were working at the factory, so there was, Duncan and I did work at the factory. We shaped, and then we would do things. I think when I was at the factory, I was mostly polishing, pinlining and polishing, and Duncan was sanding.
Okay.
And so we were, it was good, because we were able to work at a factory and really learn how to do all the processes properly. Mm-hmm. So it was good.
Was there important evolutions of the design afterwards? Like at some point you switched to 5 fins?
Well, during the 70s, and we were really working, we were learning and refining our shaping, getting better at shaping, and just trying to improve the boards. And then in 1983, we did the first 5-fin Bonzer.
How did you come up with this idea?
Actually, it was during that time, Glenn Winton, whose nickname was X, anyway, was doing quads. He was doing the early quad fins. And we made a couple of those for some friends, put kind of a slight Bonzer concave in it, and then a friend of mine, I had been thinking, well, what if we put, two, Bonzer side fins, 2 Bonzer runners, instead of, just the single. But I didn't really pursue it seriously. And then a friend of mine happened to say, hey, did you ever think of doing 4, Bonzer fins on there? And I thought, well, Charlie, because it was a friend of ours, and Charlie Womack, a really close friend. And I said, I kind of been thinking about it, and he goes, hey, I'll do it. You guys, let's make one. We'll try it. And that's how, we got started with that. And during that time, because Simon had done the thrusters in 1981, the thrusters really started to take hold, and so friends were asking, will you make us a thruster? And we're going, well, let's wait, let's see if it works out. And as it turned out, the thruster did work out well, and so then our friends were so I said, okay, we'll make you a thruster, but you have to have the Bonzer concaves. So we made our thrusters with very slight Bonzer concaves in it. And that was, 1980, 81, 82, and then by I think it was late 83 we did the 5-fin Bonzer.
Okay. Because the 5-fin is not really, it's not more fins.
As far as surface area with the fins, it's similar, but it's probably a little bit more on the side fins, because instead of the straight keel shape, because what we did is we have the same base, the 5-fin, the 2 individual side fins on the 5-fin. That base equals 10 inches. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, the original Bonzer 3 fins were 9 3/4 inches at that time. So when we did the 5-fin, we had, like I said, a total of 10 inches for the 2, but we overlapped the 2 fins by 1/4 of an inch. So essentially it was the same, 9 3/4, from the trailing edge of the rear fin to the leading edge of the front fin. So kind of what we did was, in a sense, we took the front half of the original fin and moved it out closer to the rail. But gave it more of a fin type shape, like our 5-fins are now. Yes. So the 5-fin had more fin area than the 3-fin. But because of where the fins were placed, it was still very, very loose and maneuverable and very quick, because that front part of the Bonzer fin had been moved further out toward the rail. So it made for definitely a little bit different ride, and it really kind of fit the way surfing was evolving. The approach was changing, and so the 5-fin Bonzer was kind of fit in actually a little bit better with the way people were beginning.
It was closer to the thruster, but still felt like a Bonzer. Yeah. Well, we were excited when Simon did the thruster. We looked and we went, oh well. People were calling us, going, oh no, they're doing 3 fins and this. But Duncan and I said, hey, at least they're doing 3 fins. So, that we were kind of excited about that, and we thought, well, maybe they'll get to the Bonzer someday. But right now, they got the thruster, and the boards were working well. I mean, Simon, he really changed things, because he promoted that idea, that design, and he went out and he won those 3 major contests. He put it all on the line. Said, I'm riding my new thing, and Did you know each other at the time?
No. We never met Simon until, I think I met Simon for the first time only 6 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was nice to finally meet him, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I met him in Australia at Rhino Laminating. That's where, because we built our boards there, and Simon started getting his boards built there as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that was the final evolution, if I may say, of the Bonzer, or was there other steps after the 5-fin?
No, right. No, it's basically the same right now as it was. But the first 5-fin, the side fins were a little bit further back, and the center fin was a little bit smaller than it is now. and then we gradually we made the side fins a little bit bigger than the first 5 fin, and we moved them up. We moved them forward a little bit, and then we went to more of a normal depth on our center fin.
Mm-hmm.
And, our most the center fin that we mainly use is 6.5 inches deep, but the first one was like 6 or maybe a little bit less, because we were first thinking, well, we've got more fins, maybe they need to be a little bit smaller. But the boards were so loose and that we realized that we could make the fins a little bit bigger and have a little bit more drive and make the boards a little more versatile.
But you kept making 3 fins also at the same time?
Yeah, we did keep making our 3 fins. And when we came up with the 5 fin, really was the time when the thrusters were just exploding. And so we just thought, this isn't the time to try to publicize the 5 fin and because the thruster was just gaining so much popularity that we just said, okay, we'll just wait, so we didn't say anything about it, and we just kept it to ourselves and made some for our friends and things. So it really wasn't probably until about 1988 when we really started making a little bit of a push with the 5 fin.
Okay. And because today you still make 3 fins, 5 fins.
Mm-hmm.
I read 2 fins also on your website.
Yes.
What makes you choose between a 3 fin or a 5 fin configuration? Is it a question of feelings or is it a question of how you want to surf? What makes you choose?
Yeah, I think what you said in terms of how you want to surf, that's part of it. Like some of our boards, when we do like the Rush Short, which is more based off of our 70s style boards, those are predominantly the 3 fin. We do some 5 fins with the Rush Short, but most of them are 3. And then some of our other shapes are mostly 3 fin, and then the more contemporary shortboard shapes are all 5 fin. And then the eggs and the speed eggs are mostly 5 fin, and but they can work well as a 3 fin.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, so there is a little bit of difference in how they surf. And
did you follow the general trends and evolution of shaping during all these years, like banana rockers in the 90s and everything? Did you try to apply that to the Bonzer, or did you stay on your line and?
We pretty much stayed with where we, our basic ideas of rocker and template, but we have learned from other people and incorporated, some different things. Especially, one was the Bonzer light vehicle bottom, which has the double concave in the center, but then it has the concaves on the rails, and we use that. Excuse me. We started doing that back in 1977. We went to Australia, and we were visiting Richard Harvey, and he took us to the Sydney, to Shane shop in Sydney, and there was these boards called the Fluid Foil, Jim Pollard, and they were like a 6-channel, but they weren't the hard cut, the hard cut style channels. It was just before those, and we looked at those fluid foil bottoms, and we thought, we might be able to incorporate a little bit of that with the Bonzer. And so we did, and then we modified it a little bit. But even today, we use that bottom in our twin fins, Alpha Omegas, and then mini light vehicles. and then sometimes some rush shorts. But so we do pick up ideas and things from from other people, but generally speaking, we didn't follow the trend of super narrow or super rockered, and we kind of stuck with what we were doing. But if a customer wanted to try, we would say, well, maybe we can modify a little bit, but if you wanted, and so we did make a lot of, fairly narrow boards, but we would a lot of times we would try to say, well, you might not want to go so narrow, but we would, we made a lot of Bonzers that were pretty narrow.
Did some other people work with you on the concept and on the...
No. Once we came up with the original idea, it was just Duncan and I refining it the rest of the way, and just learning how to shape better was the main thing. The concept was there. The archetype of the 3-fin double concave, that was there. We just needed to learn how to shape better. So that was our main focus.
Okay.
And then also to learn how to shape other boards too. It wasn't, just so we knew how to shape a thruster, we knew how to shape, various types of boards. But we were pretty, we just focused on doing our Bonzers. Yeah.
And you kept working in factories for all this time?
Yeah. Well, we worked in the factory with Ventura Surf Shop for a few years, and then they closed their shop, and then we were having our boards glassed at a different glasser at Hawkinson Fiberglass in Santa Barbara, and then Lisa, my wife and I were living in Northern California. My wife Lisa and I were living in Northern California. We had 2 little twin boys. And we were up there for a little over a year, and then we came back to Oxnard, and excuse me, I was offered the job or to try out to shape at Channel Islands surfboards, and I was like, wondering about, feeling strange about shaping some other surfboards, and my friends and family said, do it, don't be stupid, because Channel Islands was really, coming up with, Tom Curran and everything was, and they needed help, and so I got the job with them, and I shaped with Channel Islands for 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and that helped pay the bill, get a steady paycheck, raise our kids. But all during that time,
still making surfboards.
Yeah, but all that time, we were still making our own boards. I didn't just stop because the Channel Islands job was great for a paycheck, but it wasn't our dream, of trying to get the Bonzer, more accepted, and we wanted to really contribute something to the surfboard evolution of surfboards, and we felt like the Bonzer was a contribution. We just needed, more people to understand it and give it a try.
Yeah. And you were a shaper over there, or sender, or glasser?
At Channel Islands?
Yeah.
Just shaping.
Shaping?
Yeah.
And you never wanted to make Bonzer with them? It was never a question?
No, they were doing their thing and we were doing ours, and so we never, so... You
wanted to stay independent?
Well, no, they wanted to as well. Because Al was Al Merrick was really recognized as a top shaper and designer, and so he was focused on his things, and I was focused on ours, but it was really a great relationship working with him. He's such a really great person, and so he didn't mind me, like if I had to go to work and get a certain amount of their boards done. But if I needed to do one of ours, I could shape one of ours in their factory, and they didn't mind. Yeah, and same thing. I could bring his work home to my shaping room. So it was a very great relationship for a long time.
Okay.
It was really good.
And you stopped, you said 20 years, so you stopped in...
2007 was the last year that I shaped Channel Islands.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was getting to be too much. Our boards, we were doing more of ours, and we weren't doing quite enough of ours to support ourselves, but doing both was too difficult in terms of, it was just too much work. So we took a chance, and I quit Channel Islands and just focused on doing, the Bonzers and Campbell Brothers.
And Duncan worked with you at that time?
No, he had moved to Hawaii Duncan moved to Hawaii in 1982.
Oh, okay.
1983 he was actually fully set up over there. And he started Cafe Haleiwa.
Yeah.
And he still has Cafe Haleiwa now. So, but it was very important, even though we weren't working together on the surfboards, him living in Hawaii was very, very important to the progression of the Bonzer into being accepted. Because when he was living on the North Shore and had the restaurant, was meeting so many people, and he got to know a lot of the top surfers and stuff, and a lot of people knew who Duncan was with his reputation, and so he was able to share the bonds, share boards with certain good surfers, and then the big change came in about 1988, 89, when we started to work a little bit with Pat Rawson on the North Shore. He invited us over. He was doing some semi-Bonzer type boards, and this Japan magazine was advertising Bonzer, and a friend of ours who was teaching in Japan told us about that, and we went, oh, wait a minute here. So Duncan, it turns out Pat was living like 200 yards away from Duncan.
Okay.
And so Duncan went over and put a note on Pat's door. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically said, Pat, we're alive and well, still making Bonzers, so here's my phone number. And it worked out. Pat called him, and it worked out. Pat invited me to come over and show him what we were doing, and so we kind of worked together with him, and he wasn't ready to do the 5-fin, but he was really interested in the thrusters with the Bonzer concave. So we showed him how to do that, and he started making some thrusters with the double concave for a lot of his riders, like Robbie Page and Tom Carroll and Robbie Bain, a whole bunch of really good surfers. And that kind of started the idea of having a double concave thruster. Yeah,
because now you have the single to double concave.
Yeah.
Almost every shortboard.
Yeah. So
it was maybe the influence of the Bonzer on some
shapers. It's had an influence for sure. Yeah.
Except yours are much deeper.
Yeah.
How do you work today? You work on your own? Do you have a staff? Do you have?
No, I just have a shaping room, and we send out all the boards to get glassed. We have three different glass shops that do our boards: Studio 609, Scott Larice, and Ocean Works. And two are in Ventura, one is down in Santa Ana. So now it's my son's shaping, Jacob, and he was living in Hawaii, and he really started shaping a lot, really 5 years ago or so, maybe a little bit more. He started shaping more and kind of developed a clientele over in Hawaii and living near Duncan, and so.
But Duncan does not shape?
No, he hasn't shaped for a long time.
Okay.
And he's our ideas guy.
Yeah.
no, but like I say, he's been a big part of the creating and the Bonzer community. So Jacob's shaping a lot, shaping really well, and he just moved back to California.
Okay.
And he has a little 3-year-old boy. He and his wife, and they live close to us. So now he's shaping with me.
Okay.
And so
under the same label.
Yeah, under Campbell Brothers.
Cool.
His is he was Campbell Brothers Hawaii for a while. He did that, and so now we're both shaping under the Campbell Brothers label, and he has his own Instagram, which is Campbell Vehicles. So he still does his, he does a little bit of a few different things on his own, and The other thing I didn't mention, one of the big things for in Hawaii was Davey Miller. Davey Miller was a really exceptionally good surfer in Ventura, but he had moved and was living in Hawaii. And so he started riding Bonzers on the North Shore, and that really had a big impact. Riding Sunset, Pipeline, Backdoor, and then when Duncan moved to Hawaii, he figured, I've got to walk the walk. So he learned. He went out and learned how to ride Pipeline, and so he could show that the Bonzers worked, and put his money where his mouth is. And he and Davey Miller really were, riding the boards on the North Shore.
So it's a family story now. You have your legacy with your son.
Yeah. He's doing well. So it is a family affair.
How do you work in terms of hand shaping, computer, CAD programs and machines and everything?
Now we do, probably most of our boards are machine. We still hand shape, some customs, and but our idea, or the way I've approached it with the machine, is that all of our models, all of our original, shapes, the files that we make come from hand shapes. We don't really create new shapes just on the computer. We'll do a hand shape and then map it, and then hand shape, and then if the board's working well, we'll map it and make a file. And we do adjustments to the files that we have. Like we'll say, okay, well, we want to change the widths or the template a little bit. But in terms of the actual models, we pretty much do hand shapes and then create our files from there.
Okay. And you still make the concaves and everything by hand, or is it also on the machine, or it depends?
Yeah, most of the machines don't do the concaves. Don't have the ability to do the concaves. There are some that can do it, but the APS 3000 and those, the ones that we are using mainly, don't do the concaves. So we hand shape all the concaves.
So it's still a blend between machine and hand shape.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do.
I've seen you doing it. Okay, and can you tell us more about your models, if I may say, because you mentioned a few ones?
Yeah, the different models that we have. We have the basic set of models that we have, I would say, is that we have, obviously we have the Rush Short, which is based off of, our 70s 3-fin Bonzers, and we have the Bumblebee, which is also based off boards that we did in the 70s, and they're very short and wide, a wide tail. And then we have our eggs, because we always, through the years, we always, we always rode eggs, and at least had a couple in our quivers. So yeah, we have our eggs, and then we have what we've called the speed egg, which is 3/4 of that board of the speed egg is the same as our regular egg. The only thing different with the speed egg is, the front quarter of the board, we've pulled the nose in a little bit. And then we have a board called the Octafish, which is it's kind of a bridge between a shortboard style surfing and a fish. It has a deep cut swallowtail and elevated wing, which I haven't mentioned yet, but elevated wing. And it's a shorter, wider board, so it is kind of a blend between a fish and a shortboard. And then we have we've got various shortboards. The main kind of performance shortboard shape we're doing right now is called the Y5, and that's a board that sort of evolved with our work with Taylor Knox. Initially, our other shortboards were a little bit narrower, and that we called those the Shelter because of the film Shelter, and they had asked us to make a couple boards for the guys to ride. So our shortboards are kind of contemporary style shortboards, or the Shelter, the Y5, and then we have one we call the Mini Merc, which is a little bit more like an 80s style shortboard, a little wider, has a trim beak on the nose, so it's a little bit more like the shortboards in the 80s. And those are all 5 fins. And then we have longboards. And then on some of the eggs and the longboards, we utilize the E-wing, the elevated wing.
Which is? How does that work?
It works great. Works really well. We started doing the E-wing. It's hard to describe without visually seeing it. But it's a wing, or what in Australia they call a flyer. But normally the wings the wing is a little more flush with the bottom of the board. But on the E-wing, the tip or corner of the wing is up toward the deck. Okay. Yeah. So, and we started doing that in about 1986 when I was working at Channel Islands. Max McDonald, who was a really well-known shaper and surfer in the 70s, early 80s, he started working at Channel Islands, and the elevated wing was his idea. And we got to be friends, and he was trying one of the Bonzers, and he goes, hey, maybe you want to try, we'll try the E-wing, elevated wing on the Bonzer. And, Doug and I, we're always open to, experimenting with new things. And so Max was a really good, at that time, he was really good longboarder too, one of the longboard revolution that was coming, the modern longboards. And so we did a longboard with the elevated wing on it, and then we did a 6/8 3-fin Bonzer. No, it was a 5-fin. 6/8 5-fin with the elevated wing, and a 5-fin longboard with the elevated wing. And again, both first time, they've just worked really well. It's a super functional idea. It helps longer boards surf a little bit shorter, so you can have a longer board that paddles well, but it still surfs maybe 3 to 4 or 5 inches shorter in terms of its maneuverability. The wing is just slightly behind the trailing edge of the side fins, and then it cuts in about 1/2 of an inch, and it creates more rail rocker right by where your fins are. And you don't feel it until the last maybe third or 1/4 of your turn or cut back. So on longer boards, when you're cutting back, sometimes you feel like the board's kind of getting out there, and you want it to come back in underneath you. So the last part of the turn of the cutback, it shortens up the turning radius, and so it comes back underneath your center of gravity, and really well. So we usually use it on a little bit longer boards or boards with a really wide tail. The Octofish has a wide tail, and we use the E-wing on that.
Okay. And how do you choose your single fin? Or do you make it a glass-on fin, maybe?
Oh, for the center fin?
Yeah, for the center fin.
Yeah, the center fin we almost always use a box, because then people can adjust it, and also if they can experiment with different size fins. I mean, we have a standard bin.
Yeah, your
fin side. Yeah, we have Bonzer center fins. The main sizes are 6.5, 6 3/4, and 7.
Okay.
We do have a 6, but it's not used that much.
Okay.
But almost all of them have fin boxes. If someone requests a glass-on center fin, we'll do it, but the glassers, it's enough to glass on the Bonzer side fins, and then with the center fin, it's...
I heard it was really difficult to glass Bonzer, especially the 5-fin Bonzer.
Sanding 5-fin Bonzers is not easy. Sanders, most of the guys like to do them, but they don't mind it now. At first, it was more of a problem, but moonlight glassing really modernized things, because they accepted the idea of glassing on the 5-fin, the side fins, and then once they did it, other glassers said, "Oh, okay, yeah." But it is more difficult.
But what makes it more difficult?
The main reason glassing the 5-fins, sanding the glass on 5-fins is different is because the gap in between the two side fins is only 1.5 inches. So to get in there and sand that, nicely is a little bit more. It is more difficult. It takes more time and patience, and you can talk to a lot of sanders that have scraped their hands on the fins. Yeah.
You cannot use power tools.
Not in between the fins.
It's
no.
only hand.
Well, or someone makes a longer sanding block that's higher above the fins. Yeah. But so when all the glass shops, when they do Bonzers, they just don't they only do a certain amount a week, because it slows down their production of other boards. So, and we understand that. So it's
And if you want to polish it, it must be the same problem.
Polishing the 5-fins is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a few ones. Very well done.
UWL does amazing. UWL. They do amazing polishes with the 5-fins. And at home too, Studio 609 is very good, and other glass shops are good, they do it. But we try to steer away from the polishes, because it's so much more difficult for the glassers.
Okay. Did some shapers influence your work? Your designs?
I think we were influenced by, again, like I say, the Australian shapers, some of the Australian shapers, and Wayne Lynch was a big influence on us, and then seeing some of the early boards in the very early days, some of Terry Fitzgerald's twin fins, and some of Ted Spencer and David Treloar, and a lot of the older Australian guys was the influence in our early days. And then later on, really not so much. We learned shaping techniques from various shapers, but we weren't really influenced too much on the shapes. We generally went with like the trends because of the styles, because people were ordering.
Yes.
Like people were ordering, they said, "Wow, boards are like this now. We would like a board like this." So that was, we were obviously some influence, but we pretty much have stuck to our own ideas and templates.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you see the future now? You want to keep making Bonzers?
Oh yeah. There's no Well, as far as me, there's no Bonzer retirement program. So I'm 72, or I will be 72 in May. So what is this? 72. Yeah. But so I'm still shaping and working full time.
Yeah.
But Jacob's coming more into it, and so eventually get too old or keel over, Jacob will continue on. But for now, we're not trying to get big or anything. We don't do a lot of boards, but we do enough to get by, and we're not really trying to build a big business. Maybe Jacob will build it later, but it's too late for me to build a big business.
But you already made the Bonzer an iconic surfboard.
Yeah. We're happy. Duncan and I are very happy with what we've accomplished and what the Bonzer has accomplished. It took a lot of years and frustrating along the way, but the boards are very well respected now, and people have fun riding them, and we take a lot of satisfaction in that.
Yeah. Do you travel a lot to shape, or is it just France and?
Yeah, I do travel. Have been traveling a lot over the last 16 years. Australia, France, Portugal, and England mainly.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've just have developed over the years just so many good friends through shaping in different places, and it's nice working. We work with a lot of younger people, and keeps me younger, and so it's really enjoyable.
And what makes you come back to the Shapers Club every year?
Back to the Shapers Club?
It's all because of Renaud?
Just Renaud. I mean, everybody here. Renaud, and they're just such great hospitality, and they're such good board builders, and it's a pleasure to have them have accepted doing the Bonzers, and they do such such quality work, and just great people, and we've become very close with their family, and it's like extended family. We have a Bonzer family is extended around the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you still have time to surf?
A little bit, but I've been injured a lot in the last couple of years, so I haven't been surfing too much in the last couple of years. I'm trying to get back in a little bit better shape, but I can still surf. I don't surf so good anymore, but I can still surf.
Must be funny to build surfboards all day and not surf so much.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. Well, it's just because you're thinking, I'm not riding my boards as much. I'm not. But so now it's my son and a lot of other people who ride the boards and consistently, and so it keeps me sharp in terms of how the boards are working. Because when you have high-level surfers and also mid-level, very good recreational surfers, and then even in beginners, you learn from everyone. So even though I'm not riding and testing the boards and pushing, the design is being pushed now by good surfers. In the early days, Duncan and I could surf well enough to where we could push the design in terms of its capabilities. But now, it's people like Taylor Knox and Mikey February and Alex Notes, all these different people who ride the boards. Noah Lane in Ireland. We make boards for them, and they can push the limits. Yeah, and we learn from that.
You are shooting a documentary with Travis?
Yes, Travis Waddell.
Can you tell us a little bit about the documentary?
Yeah, we met Travis. I made surfboards for him, and I'm always interested in what people do. And he said, well, he was a cinematographer, and I had mentioned to him that we been planning on trying to do a documentary for a long time, and we had a few false starts. Things didn't work out with other people, and we looked at Travis's work, and we really liked his work, and he offered to work with us on the documentary. And so we're just in the early stages of filming and getting together footage, and to put together a short it's kind of a short promotional reel for the documentary to raise money for the bigger project.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, because it's a big project.
Yeah.
To try to put 50 years into an hour and a half is a big project.
You're gonna have a lot of other interviews.
Yeah. So but Duncan and I made films when we were younger, just Super 8 films, and we've always known that eventually we were going to have to document. We wanted to document the journey, and so it's we plan on it being. It's more than just about Duncan and I. It's more about kind of the working title and idea is the Bonzer experience. Meaning, like I mentioned, the word Bonzer is extraordinary and unique. So we want to be able to show and demonstrate just the effect that the Bonzer design has had on us, but on other people, and on the surfboard community. I mean, surfboard design community, and also just the community in general. There's pockets of Bonzer, people all over the world. Yeah. So just from the general ideas, just from this little, idea in our garage, that now it's worldwide, and to just show that just the experience and what it means to other people as well as to us.
And is it something that you wanna make for the next years, or is it something?
A lot of it's the production schedule obviously is going to depend a lot on how much, about raising the funds to be able to do it, because it's going to require a lot of traveling, a lot of work, and then the production costs, and so we'll see. We'll try to do it as fast as we can, but
it's
a big project.
Beginning.
Yeah, this is the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it will be soon.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks for having me on the.
Thank you for your time. It's an exceptional opportunity for me to meet you. So.
Oh no, thanks.
It's great.
After we concluded the interview, I told Malcolm I believed the Bonzer was ahead of its time, and surprised by the time it took to have it accepted within the surfing world, and here's what he thinks about it.
Yeah, it just took, we had to just stay focused and keep, because we knew it worked. So, we weren't going to give up and just go, if we didn't do the Bonzer, if I wasn't shaping Bonzers all these years, I probably would have done something else besides shape surfboards. You know, I mean, that was what really kept us focused on it, was because this was an idea that we felt had value, and we wanted to do our best to contribute. And if we quit making Bonzers 30 years ago, there wouldn't be any Bonzers now. And now people around the world are making Bonzers, but that wouldn't have happened unless we just kept. Because back then nobody really cared. We couldn't give the idea away.
But which is funny because there are so many ingredients, like the double concave, the single concave, the 3 fin. It was all there from the beginnings, but it still took many years to make it famous. So. It took a long time, and part of it was because it was difficult to manufacture. Difficult to shape, difficult to manufacture, and so you really had to experience the capabilities of the boards, of how well they worked, to want to make them. So that was a big difference. Like when we started working with Moonlight glassing, a lot of the guys rode the board. So Peter St. Pierre was kind of initiated us working with Moonlight. He's a really well-known airbrusher and pinstriper. He's famous. Anyway, so but we made Bonzers for a lot of the guys that worked there, and they rode them. So they knew that it was worth the extra time and energy to build, to build them, and that made a huge difference. So because it's more difficult. Now it's much more accepted. People glass on the fins. A couple of the fin companies make the Bonzer 5 fins that can be removable. So it makes it a little bit easier. We don't do very many of those, but you do some of those yourself? We do a few. You have to shape the concaves a little bit different if you're going to have to, because you have to have a flat surface there for the plugs. But anyway, it's been a crazy but fulfilling journey. You'll see all that in your movie.
I hope so.
It's really weird to think that maybe the development was slowed down only because it was more difficult to make, but it's frustrating.
And it's more difficult to make, but shapers are all individuals, and people have their own ideas and what they think works, but it's complicated.
There's a lot of options. Well, thank you so much.
And that's it for the 11th episode of Shapeology with Malcolm Campbell. Even though Shapeology is mainly a French-speaking podcast, there will be other English interviews in the future. So, if you enjoy this episode, please subscribe to the podcast to be sure not to miss the next ones. Again, you can find all the links, pictures and videos on our website shapeology.fr and on our Instagram shape.ology. Thank you, Malcolm, for sharing all of this with us. Thank you, Renaud, for making it happen. And thank you, listeners, for listening to the episode. See you soon!